So thank you all for joining tonight for our first webinar of our winter webinar series. This is Recycling 101 with CSWD. My name is Kat Moody. I am CSWD's Community Outreach Coordinator.
I'm Recycle Randamis. I do all of the school outreach.
You can call me Gabby. I'm the Business Outreach Coordinator.
All right, so let's kick things off. So tonight you can expect us to talk all about recycling. We'll have time to answer your questions. We'll talk about what goes in the bin, what stays out. Throughout this webinar, if you have questions, go ahead and pop those into the Q&A box. Beth will be monitoring that box and answering questions that she can, or sort of pausing us throughout the presentation and having us answer those questions. So feel free to keep questions flowing into that chat. And then early next week, we'll send a follow-up email with a link to the recording of this webinar. We'll post that on YouTube, on our channels, and then also send that out again over that follow-up email. And then we'll also have a resource list. So everything that you learn in today's presentation, we will have as much as possible in that resource list. And then we'll also have a feedback form for you all to give us your feedback on this webinar. And here's the agenda for tonight. Again, we'll dive into all things recycling. We'll have a little fun trivia at the end, and then Q&A as well.
Okay, so we have a lot of guidelines and information for you tonight on recycling, but before we go into all that, let's talk a little bit about why recycling is so important. So the number one and my personal favorite is that not only can it save you money by separating that material out and getting rid of it for free if you bring it to our drop-off centers, but it also saves natural resources. So this looks pretty familiar to you all. It is just a normal plastic bottle like what you might see anywhere, but this little bit of oil at the bottom actually represents how much oil it takes to make this bottle to begin with. Every single time you pop a bottle in the recycling bin, this is how much oil you are saving. And on top of that, it saves energy. Just keep in mind that every time we make something from brand new materials, we actually have to go and get those resources, extract them out. It takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of materials, it takes a lot of time. And by recycling your plastics, metals, and glasses, you can actually save those resources. On top of that, you're saving space in the landfill. You probably already know Vermont only has one active landfill that's located in Coventry, Vermont. And it has only about 20 years left before it becomes completely full. And we want to do our part to make sure that we're extending the lifespan of that landfill by saving all that space for the stuff that can't really go anywhere else. And then lastly, we can create jobs by recycling. So landfilling contributes 0.1 jobs per 1,000 tons of trash that we're throwing away. But recycling creates 20 times the amount of jobs. So we always want to be recycling to put some local jobs back into our economy. And it's very easy for you to think that we're just making stuff up as we go along, putting in all these random crazy rules in order to trip you guys up, but that's not exactly true. There are a lot of reasons why we say something is or isn't recyclable. First reason is that technology has to exist in order to sort and recycle that material. So something like this has multiple bits and pieces. It's got plastic, it's got paper. Some of them even have a little bit of metal in there. And if we don't have the resources to actually separate all of that out, then we can't get at that material and we can't call it recyclable. On top of that, there has to be a buyer. If nobody wants that material, then we can't spend the time and energy to actually go and get those resources from the stuff that you're putting in your blue bin. The economics have to work. It has to be cost effective. Otherwise, we're not able to extract those materials. And then lastly, there has to be a demand for recycled products. So we, the people, have the power to request that things are made from recycled materials. And when we put that request out there in the world, businesses respond by making their products from recycled materials. That stimulates that demand, it makes the economics works, they are the buyer, and then we either have the technology or make the technology in order to meet that need. So really, it's a beautiful cycle. As long as we do our part, we can actually ensure that more things get recycled in the future.
Now you might be saying, where does all of my recycling go once that gets picked up at the curb or after you put it in the dumpster at your apartment complex? Well, it comes to a materials recycling facility, or the MRF. We have 2 MRFs in Vermont, one in Rutland that is owned and operated by Casella Waste, a private hauling company. And then we've got one right here in Williston that CSWD owns, and we contract out with Casella to run it for us because they know what they're doing with that stuff. Now, all of your blue bin stuff comes to our MRF and gets sorted out into 9 different categories. All right, paper, mixed paper, cardboard, number 1, plastic, number 2, plastic, milk jugs, and laundry detergent bottles. We've got yogurt containers, we've got aluminum, steel, and glass. There we go. Now, 77% of the material that comes into our MRF that gets sorted out is paper and cardboard. So that is a huge portion. Last year we sorted, well, they sorted, the guys at the facility sorted 80 million pounds of recycling, and that's from pretty much half of Vermont, the northern half of Vermont. So keep up the great work out there. Now, we are going to watch a quick 5-minute video on actually what the MRF looks like, so you can see the behind the scenes of our current MRF.
Your blue bin. Think it's just another place to put your household waste? Think again. The things you put in this blue bin are actually valuable resources that are about to embark on an amazing journey we call recycling. This plastic bottle, when it falls into the bin, it's about to take a magic carpet ride to a new life. It could become another bottle or something like this fleece. This is the first stop on the journey, CSWD's Materials Recovery Facility, or MRF for short. Thanks to you, more than 80 million pounds of recyclables are processed in this building each year. They go through a wild series of spinning discs, speeding conveyor belts, whirling magnets. It's sort of like a Willy Wonka factory for recyclables. When they come out the other side, they're shipped off to market to be made into new products. Trucks come into this building. We call it the tip floor. That's because this is where trucks literally tip their recyclables out onto the floor. It can look like quite a mess, but that's only because the MRF hasn't worked its magic yet. Another machine, a skid steer or a loader, pushes it all onto the first conveyor belt, where it heads up the hill and into the pre-sort room. The pre-sort room is where the first line of workers take off bags of shredded paper for special handling. They also take out items that made it into your bin by mistake, like styrofoam, plastic bags, and hazardous materials. It takes concentration and quick hands, but it's important to get these contaminants out now. Contaminants lower the value of recyclables, and they can get caught into the machinery or even injure workers. Cardboard is the first material to be sorted. A screening machine with spinning discs pulls off big pieces of cardboard while everything else drops through it onto a conveyor below. After the cardboard, glass is next. Your recyclables go through something called a bottle breaker, which does exactly what it sounds like. It crushes glass into small pieces. That crushed glass falls through a screen onto its own special conveyor. The rest of your recyclables are still on the move. They're heading for 2 more sorting screens. We call paper, like newspaper and office paper, fibers. These items float on top of the screens, while containers, like plastic bottles and metal cans, bounce down the hill. The fibers head for a conveyor where workers pull out boxboard and cardboard for separate recycling. And they pull off any trash that might have sneaked by the first steps. The plastic and metal containers are headed for a special machine called a ballistic screen, whose rows of paddle arms weed out any leftover fibers and drop the containers onto their own conveyor. The workers on the next line are looking for plastic containers like jugs, tubs, and bottles. These plastics may end up as plastic or composite lumber, bottle caps, or even fleece sweaters. Each worker on this line is looking for a different type of plastic to sort, and each type of plastic needs to be kept separate. That's because every type of plastic is different. Companies that buy the kind of plastic used in water and soda bottles, for example, don't want other plastics. The color of the plastic can also make a difference. A colorless plastic milk jug is worth more because it can be made into more things than one that has been colored orange or blue. Next up, metal. Ferrous metals, or metals with iron in them, are in for a fun ride as they pass under a high-powered electromagnet, which lifts them off the conveyor and drops them down a chute into a bunker below. The last sorter on the line is looking for aluminum. Aluminum cans, aluminum pie pans, big balls of aluminum foil, and those products will be recycled into just about any other product you can think of made of aluminum. Aluminum siding, engine parts, or another aluminum can. After all the paper, plastics, and metal are sorted out, they're each baled into giant cubes that weigh up to 1,700 pounds apiece. These bales will be loaded onto tractor-trailer trucks and sold to companies that will recycle them into new products. These bales are worth a lot of money. Some are worth $30, some are worth more than $700. Each year, the MRF sells an average of $4 million worth of recyclables. But wait, we're not done yet. Remember that bottle breaker? Well, that broken glass took an exciting trip of its own past vacuums, fans, and magnets that picked out any paper, plastic, or metal bits that may have gotten mixed in. The glass then goes through a spinning cylinder called a trommel, and the end product is used in road building projects and in drainage projects. That's the end of this part of the amazing journey we call recycling. If you were a newspaper or a plastic bottle, your journey would have taken you only a half an hour from door to door.
Excellent. And now Kat is going to walk you through where each of those products go here in the back. They get made into.
Exactly. So we're going to take it one step further here.
Hey guys, the audio seems a little off.
Okay. How is it now? I'm not quite sure.
Much better. There you go.
Okay. I didn't even do anything. I'm glad it magically fixed itself. So first let's talk about cardboard and paper. So this is going through the process that you just saw in that video at our MRF, and then it'll go to either New York or Canada, and it'll be turned into new cardboard boxes, paperboard, and paper towel cores. And all of this that we're talking about is staying, all of these recyclable materials are staying domestic. So either in the United States or Canada, which is huge. One thing that CSWD and Vermont really prides itself in. So next, aluminum and steel. So that is going just one state over to New York and being turned into soda and beer cans, steel containing products like rebar, appliances, and bike parts. And aluminum and steel is actually the only item in your blue bin that is infinitely recyclable. So that's really exciting. Glass is one of the more difficult materials to recycle. It is going to either Colchester, Vermont, so the most local out of all the materials, or New Hampshire, and it becomes road base. It'll also be used in engineering projects or mixed into concrete blocks that are non-structural. So that happens again at the MRF you saw this glass is being turned into a sand-like material and then goes into those products. And then plastics, if you've ever noticed the different numbers on the bottom of your plastics, this here we're talking about number 1 plastic, so drinking bottles, water bottles, things like that. Those are going to Alabama, North Carolina, New York, or Georgia, and then becoming new plastic bottles, fleece, or carpeting. And then plastic number 2, or HDPE plastic, is going to either Alabama or North Carolina, and again becoming plastic bottles, or more durable types of plastic like drainage piping for road construction or toys. And then finally, plastic number 5, that is going to Alabama. And these types of containers are, most commonly like yogurt containers or other plastic tubs. And then those will take on a new life as either paint containers, so plastic paint containers, rope, pallets, or food containers. So a lot of information there, but to sum it up, it's all staying fairly local and becoming something that you wouldn't even imagine.
All right, so now we've got where things go, what they get made into. Now we got to talk about the basic rules to recycling. All right. Now I am by nature a rule breaker, but there are certain rules that we do need to follow. I feel like recycling and safety rules fall into those categories. So first and foremost, when you're trying to decide whether something goes into your blue bin, consider, is it cardboard and paper or a single-use container made out of plastic, glass, or metal? If it doesn't meet that criteria, it probably doesn't go into your blue bin. And if you're wondering why we keep looking over here, we've got 2 people in studio tonight in person. So we're not just kind of glancing out the window. So bear with us with that. And then after that, another rule would be to make sure it's made out of one material type. So it's either got to be all metal, all glass, all plastic, or all paper, right? If it's all mixed up like your milk cartons are paper and plastic stuck together, if it's stuck together 2 materials or more, then it has to go into the trash. Rule number 3, has to be bigger than a squirrel's head. All right, and if you don't know how big a squirrel's head is, about 2 inches by about 2 inches, or a tennis ball. And that is because these little bits and bobs get mixed up when it goes through our MRF. It gets mixed up with the glass, and it can contaminate it and make it very difficult to clean it up so it can be used as road base or in non-structural cement blocks. Rule number 4, no hazardous waste containers, please and thank you. Meaning if your container says caution, danger, warning, poison, or flammable, please just cap the empty bottle and pop it in your trash. Keeps everybody safe and clean. So rule number 5, please, no food, no drink. Make sure it is empty and clean. We are still those guys are still hand sorting all of our recycling, or most of our recycling, and they don't want your unrinsed yogurt cup that's been sitting around in the summer sun for 2 weeks. So let's make their hard job a whole lot easier just by giving a little rinsel dinsel do ya, all right, and then pop it into the bin. Last but really important, please, no bagged recycling. I know a lot of people might come from other communities or other states where bagged recycling is accepted in the blue bin recycling. Here it is not. Break those bags open, dump it out into your dumpster or the compactor or however you're getting your recycling to the MRF. But please do not put them in bagged, and spread the word. All right, so now we've got the basic rules down, all right, and we are going to go live now for some in-depth rules for each material type. And so bear with us while we stop doing this part. Okay, great. I can't see what I look like, but oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. All right, so first I'm going to take on plastics. All right, tends to be the most complicated. So many people think that the little symbol on the bottom, let me get one that's circled here though, actually. The little circle on the bottom, or triangle on the bottom, means that it is recyclable. It just means what kind of plastic it is. All right, each number is a different type of plastic. So your drink bottles are number 1 plastic, and it's just saying, hey, I'm polyethylene terephthalate. All right, your milk jugs are saying, hi, I'm high density polyethylene. I float in water. I sink in water. I melt at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. I melt at, 500 and something degrees Fahrenheit. I can't keep all the numbers in my head, but different kinds of plastics, different chemistries, different properties. All right. And so we sort based on the type of plastic and who can recycle what type of plastic. So my kids, I teach a lot of kids, little kids, they like rhymes, and I have to agree with them. Sticks in the head. So if you can't remember 1, 2, 5, keep the earth alive. And if you can't even remember the numbers, it's all cool. Just go with jugs, tubs, and bottles in the world of plastic. Now, a couple of don'ts is no black plastic. And a lot of people wonder why no black plastic is allowed. And that is mainly because based on technology that does the sorting, so like optical sorting, the conveyor belts in pretty much everywhere are black and it blends in. So the actual technology doing the sorting cannot sort out, can't even see the black. Not to mention currently in our system where they're hand sorting, they aren't going to be like picking up a piece of black plastic and being like, hey Kat, what number is that? I forgot my glasses today. So we can't tell what kind of plastic it is to sort it out in the proper categories. So in that case, and we don't have a market for it to sell it to actually be recycled anyway. So no black plastic. No flip-floppy plastic, all right? So no plastic film, even if it says recyclable packaging, all right? No flip-floppy, it has to be hard plastic, not flip-floppy. You can take these flip-floppy plastics back to grocery stores or many, there's other retail stores, but I know that several grocery stores collect them and they send them to a company named Trix that then turns it into decking. But please do not put them in your blue bin and get all tangled up into our equipment. And Tom, love Tom, all right? Love that Tom wants to recycle toothpaste tubes, but guess what, guys? Oh, they're too floppy. So pop those into the trash or explore other recycling options, but please not in your blue bin. And I think that takes care of all of the plastic. Gabby is going to take on metal and glass. Dun, dun, dun.
Okie dokie. So I have the pleasure of talking about metal and glass, and these are pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So let's start with what is most likely to go in for metal. When it comes to metal, it's mostly going to be your cans, so your drink cans, for example, or your regular soup cans. All you need to do is make sure that these are clean and you're good to go. And if you have anything like a little container of pet food or tuna, oftentimes it'll come with a lid that could peel off. I always say you have a couple options. You can put it in your scrap metal or you can put it back in the jar it came from and squeeze this top shut until it doesn't come out of the can anymore. And then you're good to go. When it comes to aerosol cans, always check and make sure that something is non-hazardous. If you could spray it in your mouth like whipped cream or spray it anywhere on your body, you're probably good to go. But look for any kind of warnings like danger, caution, hazardous. If it says any of those things, it's a hazardous waste, and if it's full, it can go to the depot. If it's empty, you could probably put it in recycling or take it to the depot just to be safe. When it comes to the non-hazardous stuff, just make sure that you've squeezed it out until there's no air coming out. You shouldn't even hear it hissing. And then once you've got it completely emptied, you can put that in the blue bin. Lastly, we've got some aluminum. So if you've got pie plates this Thanksgiving, make sure they are completely clean. If they're rinsed out, they can go in your recycling bin. If you've got an aluminum foil ball, just make sure that it's big, no bigger, no smaller than a squirrel's head, your fist, a tennis ball, 2 inches by 2 inches, whatever works for you. If it's clean and it's that right size, you can pop it in your recycling bin and that's totally fine. But always beware of mixed materials. Something like a yogurt lid looks like it would be totally metal because it's shiny and it looks like foil. But if you were to give this a little bit of a rip, you might find that this actually has a coating of plastic on top. The best way to tell is to rip it slowly, hold it up to the light if that's easier for you, and if you see a layer of plastic stretching between the metal bits, kind of looks like splitting apart a grilled cheese, then you know that this is a mixed material and it's not okay to put in your blue bin. What can you do with this? You can put it in scrap metal, totally fine. Or you can put it in the trash if you don't have a special scrap metal collection for all your bits and bobs. Moving on to glass. Glass is even easier. All you want to put in the recycling for glass is going to be your glass bottles and your glass jars that are single use. If you've got an iced tea that comes in a glass bottle, a mason jar, a salsa jar, all you need to do is make sure these are clean and remove the tops, and then you are okay to put it in the recycling bin. This is stuff that's only meant to be used once when you think about it, and so that's okay to put in. The kind of glass that we don't want in the recycling bin is going to be your stuff that has multiple uses, things that are going to be used again and again. This drinking glass is gorgeous. I want to keep using this again and again, and I want to keep it forever. But if for some reason I get completely sick of it, my only options are to take it to a secondhand store for somebody else to enjoy, or if it's truly done, pop it in the trash. There's no recycling for something that's meant to be used multiple times over. All right, and I'm gonna let Kat take it away with paper.
Hey, Gabby, I have a quick question though.
Yeah.
Batteries, man, they're like made of metal, aren't they? Can they go in the blue bin?
That is a great question, Rhonda. And no, batteries can't go in the blue bin. Batteries look like they're going to be mostly metal, but there's a lot of other chemistry happening in here, and batteries are very likely to start fires, especially if they've gone through a compactor or if they're being scraped alongside other metal bits and bobs. We don't want to start any fires, not in your house, not in your trash truck or your recycling truck, and certainly not at the MRF. So if you've got batteries, they're not going to go in your blue bin. They're going to go somewhere else, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit.
Hot dog, thanks,
Yeah.
man.
All right, take it away, Kat.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about paper and cardboard. Seemingly a pretty easy category to know how to recycle, but there are a few trickier items that we'll touch on here. So the one most important rule when we're talking about this category is that single materials rule. So that's one to pay attention to when you're recycling paper and cardboard. So first we'll talk about this carton. This is one thing that I discovered later in life that I realized wasn't recyclable. So this juice carton, milk cartons, soup, ice cream cartons, anything that comes in direct contact with food is oftentimes designed with a plastic lining on the interior. And that means that it's two materials and not one. So cardboard with a plastic lining, you can't easily rip those two apart. So unfortunately, something like paper cartons have to go in the trash. So that's a good rule of thumb. If it comes in direct contact with food, it's probably designed, and it's a paper product, it's probably designed with a plastic lining, so has to be trash. Something like cardboard box, cereal box, pasta box. This is just cardboard. It doesn't come in direct contact with food, so it doesn't have to be designed with that plastic lining, so it can go in the recycling. And when you're in the grocery store, sort of shopping around, picking out your weekly supply, it's oftentimes really helpful to think, okay, what is the end result of what I'm buying? If you can opt for something that's recyclable over something that would have to go in the trash, that's a great way to sort of go about your grocery experience. For example, if you, going back to this black plastic, if meat is packaged in, clear plastic versus a black plastic tray, maybe opt for the clear plastic. If you can buy something that is recyclable, like this plastic jug of almond milk, go for that instead of something that would have to go in the trash like this carton. And better yet,
Yeah, did you
tell
know
us
that this
about this?
is made out of 100% recycled plastic? Yeah, I know. So we, the people, have the power to make change. And if we can buy something made out of recycled products, then we are creating that demand. So win-win.
Exactly. So what's better than something that can be recycled is something that was made out of recyclable material. So keep an eye out for that when you can, especially this holiday season, opting for those more sustainable materials. And speaking of holiday season, what a transition.
Yeah.
wrapping paper. So wrapping paper is a point of confusion for a lot of people. Oftentimes, with the shininess, metallicness, glitter, and everything like that, people get confused, and a lot of things that aren't recyclable end up in the recycling bin after the holidays. So let's sort of talk about one rule of thumb, how to differentiate between wrapping paper that's trash versus recycling. So this is an example of something that is trash. So anything that's, super shiny, glittery, ribbons, all of that would have to go in the trash. A good way to test if something is purely wrap or purely paper versus something that's coated is the rip test. So if you rip something slowly and sort of see that stretch, I'll show off camera here. There's like a little metallic-y stretch, or sometimes a stretch of plastic. That rip test, if it stretches, garbage, unfortunately. If it rips cleanly like this paper does, hard to see on camera, but you can hear it. That is recyclable because it's just paper. So doing the rip test, making sure you're recycling just paper and not a combo. And then lastly, we'll talk about one more thing before we transition. That is, plastic windows in your envelopes. That is one exception to that single materials rule that we do say that's okay to come on into our recycling facility. You don't have to cut out that window, even though it is technically breaking that rule of a single material. We see enough of those products come in that that's okay to put in your blue bin. Again, with something like a label, we see enough labels, even though that breaks that single material rule, that's okay to go into your blue bin, because if we said, nope, we don't accept anything with labels, we probably wouldn't get a lot of recycling.
Yeah.
So the labels get sorted out later down the line. And that wraps up our paper section. And now we will go back to sharing our screen here. Back to the presentation. And we'll talk about next steps. So now that we know what goes in and what stays out of the blue bin, it's important to sort of know what to do with this information. We just threw a bunch at you, and now what? So some examples of things that you can do next, and we'll send out this recycling bingo card in our follow-up email just to give you some ideas, but it can be as simple as talking to a friend about recycling, spreading something a new piece of knowledge that you learned today, or wrap a gift this Christmas in newspaper instead of recycling, or instead of wrapping paper, or even get something fixed at a repair cafe. Come to another CSWD webinar. We have a lot of ideas. We'll send this out. You don't have to remember all of this now, but at least take one action this holiday season is what we encourage. And if you can get a bingo, send us an email. We'd love to hear. Okay, so now we have a little bit of a trivia time. So just 4 questions that we'll be asking, and we will, let's see, share this poll here. So you should see it, oops. Okay, let's see. You should see it pop up on your screen. There we go. Sorry if I spoiled any of the answers there for anyone. Let's hope that's not the case. But we have 4 questions. I'll read them off, and we'll also chat a little bit more as you take the quiz. We'll answer any questions that might have been asked. But the first question here pops right up easily, but make sure you scroll down to the other questions as you're answering. And we'll give you 2 to 3 minutes to answer questions, and then see how everyone does in the trivia.
We asked the questions live so far.
Yeah.
In studio,
Let's
if you
do
will.
it.
All right, fantastic. I I gotta get it closer because
Yes,
of my
please.
old lady things. All right, so guys, in the studio, are you ready? Buying items made from recycled materials helps support recycling everywhere. True or false? True, nice. All right. Which of the following are accepted in the blue bin? Now the real quiz comes. All right. Hard plastic bottles, jugs, and tubs, napkins and paper towels, metal cans, and or glass jars and bottles. It could be multiple answers. Are the ones that we don't accept. You're going home with a gold star. All right. So all plastics labeled with a recycling symbol can be recycled in Vermont. True or false? Oh, man, either they're just super smart or we're awesome at our jobs. I don't know, guys. All right. And which of the following applies when putting items into blue bin recycling? The items must be bigger than 2 by 2 inches. The items must be clean. The items must be bagged before being placed in the dumpster. No hazardous waste containers. The items should be all one material type, and the items should be single use. Which of those is, basically, which one of those is not true? Yes, nice. All right. And it doesn't look like anybody took our quiz, so we don't have any results to share.
This is okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
for
fine.
luck.
It didn't show for us folks on
Oh,
the
Oh.
hybrid. Yeah.
Well, now.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
But we can share the results and see if that pops up.
Anything popping up for you now?
Yeah, we see 0% for everything.
yeah. All right. Well, okay.
You know,
It's technology. It doesn't always work your way.
That is okay. So at least you heard the questions, you heard the answers as we were going through, and you hopefully followed along a little bit there.
I choose to believe everybody got a perfect score.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so now I'll let Gabby take it away.
Alrighty, so we talked about what goes in your recycling bin, and we mentioned a few things that need to stay out of your recycling bin. Turns out there is a lot more that is landfill banned than just recycling. There's food waste, there's special waste, and there's hazardous waste. We can go here and talk all day, but that's what we've got the other webinars for. What you do need to know is that we have 6 DIY facilities for managing waste across the county, and you can bring a whole bunch of materials there. Your batteries, your bulbs, your electronics, propane tanks. You can take your tires, your scrap metal, pretty much anything that is landfill banned that we can't take in the recycling bin. We've got you covered and we've got a place to take it. So feel free to pop on over there or reach out if you need other places to take it if those sites don't work for you. If you've got hazardous waste, like paint, chemicals, pretty much anything that's toxic, hazardous, or dangerous, you can bring it to the Environmental Depot, which is a year-round hazardous waste facility, but we accept appointments for, and you can bring all that stuff there. Or if you're super patient, you can wait for the rover to come to a town near you and take your hazardous waste as well. All right. And then before we wrap things up and answer your questions, I want to remind you, we've got a bunch of other webinars coming up. We've got 4 other webinars besides this. The next one is going to be on textile waste, and we've got a whole bunch of guest speakers lined up as well. So feel free to scan that QR code if you have access to it, or you can go on cswd.net and sign up for all of our other webinars, because we got to tell you what to do with all this other stuff.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
All right. So thanks, guys, for joining. We're open. Our store is open for questions right now. So we'll stop doing this whole thing so you guys can see our glorious faces. So any questions, burning questions out there that we might not have answered? No.
I have a question about
Love it.
like,
Yeah.
that you can push into there.
Oh, yeah.
But what about like the soda bottle caps? Like, are you supposed to take those off and throw them away? I thought I heard that maybe at one point. State, I can't remember.
So I will let everybody jump in if they've got their own ways to remember it, but I always think like materials go together. Even if you've got a soda bottle that's a different kind of plastic than the top, they go together. Plastic goes with plastic. This is a black plastic lid, so it's a little bit out there, but if for some reason you've got a bunch of loose lids, these tiny little soda bottle lids are definitely smaller than 2 inches by 2 inches. So your only option is to either put it back on the bottle that it came from and then throw that in your recycling bin, or just throw it in the trash if you don't have what it originally came from. When it comes to something like metal or glass, if you've got, let's say, one of those metal bottles with the screw tops, if that top is metal, then those can go together as well. But if you've got a glass jar with a plastic top or a metal top, then those need to be separated. And if that lid is smaller than 2 inches by 2 inches, then that needs to go either in the trash or in some kind of a special recycling thing. Easy way to remember it, like materials go together. Is that
Thank you.
anybody
No,
else?
that's good. Yeah, drink bottles are just take cap down, throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rest of the caps you can, either toss in the trash or collect for, like, the metal ones you can collect for scrap metal for drop off at our drop off centers.
Hey, folks. Margie has a question. For example, a quart yogurt container. Should I put the lid for the blue bin or should I stack a whole bunch of them together?
Good question.
Put your lid on that yogurt container. Yeah, and then put the whole kit and caboodle into the recycle bin.
And I'll add on. I'll just add on to that. The reason for that, because it's sort of interesting to understand the why behind some answers, is because if that flat yogurt lid, I don't have an example here, but if that were to go into your blue bin, it is bigger than 2 by 2 inches. But a lot of the times, the way recycling is sorted in the facility is by how it behaves. So a flat yogurt lid is going to behave sort of like a piece of paper because it's flat. It's not as three-dimensional as a container. So it's more likely to be sorted correctly with plastic if it's on the container itself. If it's separate, then it'll be more likely to be sorted with the paper. So that's a little
Excellent.
interesting.
And Donna's wondering about plant containers.
Yeah.
So
Like black.
yeah,
plastic.
well, I mean, it depends too. Some plant containers are made out of number 6 plastic, in which case that's not recyclable, and a lot of them are black. And so we wouldn't be accepting the black plastic or the number 6. However, there are places that do have plant pot takebacks.
Yeah.
So I think Gardener Supply holds I don't know what time of year that is, but probably after planting season,
Yeah.
I would guess.
Normally in June.
But we will post that. We post that on our social media. And does it go in the digest?
It does.
All right, fantastic. Excellent. So check it out. Sign up for the digest, and then you'll know where to take your plant pots next year.
Exactly. And did you have a little demonstration?
I was just gonna demonstrate, like, if you remember the video of how things are sorted at the MRF, it's just we happen to have one of the ways that they sort things out. And as Kat was saying, it's sorted based on 3D versus 2D. So flat versus got some volume to you. And this wheel is spinning around at a high rate of speed. There's a whole lot of them, but this is just one. And so when your mixed recycling comes in, it hits the disc, and your 3D, your containers bounce backwards while your paper and other flat 2D things go up. So it's mechanically sorted into paper and containers. And as Kat was saying, with the flat yogurt tops, they tend to they're 2D, so they tend to sort with the paper. So attaching them to the lid makes not guarantees, but ensures that it has a better likelihood of getting through the system as a container.
One question.
Yeah.
So did plastic straws and the paper straws going to be in the recycling or is going to be in the trash?
That's a fantastic question.
A lot of people use plastic straws and paper straws everywhere.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah. So those are unfortunately going to be trash because of our 2 by 2 inch rule. An item has to measure 2 inches in 2 directions, and unfortunately a straw would only measure 2 inches in 1 direction, so that would have to be trash. Sometimes we often see materials end up in our recycling at our facility that are less than 2 inches, and that ends up that rule is basically the 2-inch gap in our conveyors. Anything that's smaller than that 2-inch gap will fall through and actually contaminate the glass recycling happening below.
So if you can imagine, and I'll show you guys up close, this is, let's pretend it's an accurate 2-inch square, all right? But if the item that you're trying to put into the blue bin does not entirely cover that square, it is too small to be recycled. And we do have actual measuring stickers that we could, well, we could send them home with you guys today, but if you want some measuring stickers for your house, please do let us know. It's a resource we do have. But yeah, so I always think of like 2-inch square, if it covers the whole square, big enough to go into the blue bin as long as it's following those other rules.
Hey folks, Christina would like to know if you could expand on the bottles that have caution on the front. Laundry detergents tend to have that. Are they different from something harsh like a liquid Drano?
Yes, so that's like the one thing that got pointed out to me. I've been doing this for 11 years, and a like 4th grader or 5th grader pointed out, but Recycle Rhonda, the laundry detergent bottle says caution. So because it's soap, it's like the caution is don't get it in your eyes or it's going to irritate your eyes. So I would say, use your best, your best judgment. But this one, the toilet bowl cleaner clearly says danger, and that's not something that is just a mild hazard. This would, could cause damage. So laundry detergent bottles, we want them. All right, put them in the blue bin. That's fine. And just, and if you have questions, you can always give us a call or check out our website.
Yeah, we've got a great A to Z guide.
And Christina also wants to know, we often save space by stacking the same container together. Is that okay?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't go over 2 feet. So if it's like 2 feet long, I'd stop it at 2 feet because that's like a good, it gets just, it kind of jams things up if it's bigger than 2 feet long. But yeah, you can stack the same kinds of stuff together. So as long as it's like the same plastic, or I don't know what else you would be stacking. But
Yeah.
if it's the same kind of plastic, that's fine and dandy. But yeah, so but just make sure that's not greater than 2 feet long. Good questions.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah, give it. Yeah, bring it on.
So when we put different type of plastics, like jug or bottle or milk jug or whatever that, when we put it in the blue bin, it's going to be the recycling facility on the conveyor belt. Did they care about the segregation of the different type of plastics? They shredded in together, right?
Yeah, so they're really, and the reason I say like bottle tubs and jugs is because like they're not looking at the number type, but they're looking at the kind of bottle. So all of your drink bottles are number 1. So when they're standing in front of a conveyor, oh sorry, I'm in tour mood now. When they're standing there sorting, it's coming by on a conveyor belt, and it's like Gabby comes into work and she is on number 1 plastic. So she's gonna stand there all day long and be like, number 1, number 1, number 1, number 1. I'm gonna look for milk jugs, Kat's looking for laundry detergent bottles. And so it's based on the shape and like the container type more than it is the plastic. So saying like for plastics, it's bottles, jugs, and jugs. Bottle tubs and jugs, and the tubs are your yogurt tubs or your dairy tubs. So butter, yogurt, sour cream, all that stuff. So they're focused on the really like what the container is being used for. That helps them determine what kind of plastic it is. In our new MRF, that will be coming along in a year, 2 years, a year and a half or so. We will actually have technology to sort it out, and then we'll look at it'll be optical sorting, and so the computers will know and lasers will know exactly what kind of plastic it is. So
Yeah.
which would be nicer for them too.
Yes, did you have another one?
Yeah, is there a benefit like cans with a deposit to bring them to a deposit center versus putting them in the blue bin? Like, is there a preference from and solid waste perspective versus I don't know what happens to them and really why that all happens, but
So I'm happy
I don't know
Take
if
it.
that's
Take
okay.
it, girl, yeah. Yeah, no.
That's a good question.
Yeah, so the short answer is if you are putting it in a distribution or if you're using a bottle deposit, It is still going to be recycled. It's not coming to our facility though. Now, me personally, I just want to know that it's not going in the trash. And if you want to do that deposit, if that is the incentive for you to like go and actually sort everything out, kudos, that's totally fine. When we get the materials, we already told you where we bring them. I'm not too sure what Tamra does with them. But you also have the option to bring those to a distribution center and say, keep that 5 cent deposit. And then that 5 cents, they put that into a fund for clean water. So it just depends on your preference and what motivates you. As long as it's not ending up in the landfill, I'd say you're doing a good job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Excellent. Any other questions out in Cyberland?
I think we're good out here.
All right. Yeah, keep going. That's okay.
About this black plastic issue, and so a lot of to-go containers are in plastic. Is there anything done to like maybe switch, like sometimes restaurants can get like white ones, or so like is anything
You have the
done?
power, my friends. We, the people, have the power to make the change. And I know there's a local grocery store that was using black plastic, and enough people said, this isn't recyclable. And they were like, oh, yeah. And they switched to clear. So we, the people, do have the power to make that change. And so we just have to, be adamant about it.
And is that United States wide, or like Vermont? Do different states have different things that they can recycle? Like, are
Oh yeah.
not only
Yeah.
cigarettes, like California also doing?
Well, I actually just came back from California, and so the question is about black plastic, and if everyone sort of has that same rule across the country of not recycling it, along with other recycling rules if these apply. So unfortunately, recycling is complicated in that like it is very specific to the state, if not the district even. So even more honed in. Vermont is a small enough state that all of our recycling rules are consistent throughout the state. So we have that at least, but across the country, there are different rules and what places accept. So cartons being one example, some states accept cartons, we do not. Black plastic is one thing that is pretty much not recyclable all throughout the country from what I know. I again in California just last week I was recycling, I was about to recycle black plastic, and I was like, wait, is it recyclable here? And my sister said, nope, we don't accept it here either. So, but they do accept cartons there. So it is different state to state. But this is, this presentation is Vermont specific.
And the black plastic goes back to the whole like sorting technology. And so we are 30 years behind the time in technology. But we're getting there, guys. We're getting there.
Just broke ground on
Yeah.
our new MRF.
Exactly. So, and most other MRFs have the technology to optically sort, and again, it blends in with the black conveyor belts, and so they don't accept it because they might not say they don't accept it, but it's just going into the trash because the sorters can't pick it up, like it doesn't register. So if they're not saying don't put it in, it's probably just to simplify the message of what can go in. You know what I mean?
That's the other reason why you can't necessarily go by whether or not there's a please recycle or I'm recyclable or recycle me on any kind of a container. Because how would they know? The rules can be different depending on what town you live in some places. Here, luckily, statewide, all of our requirements are pretty much the same. But yeah, there's too much of a variation to really go by whether or not there is a recycling symbol on it or not.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like any questions out there. You guys have any more? It's okay. Don't. That's what we're here for.
There's difference there.
So hopefully you're never going to see any styrofoam clamshell containers because they can't really be given out styrofoam at any businesses or restaurants anymore. If you do get a clamshell container, it's either going to be like a fiber paper type container or it's going to be plastic. If it is that fiber paper container, that is going to have to be trash. We don't have the ability to recycle that at the moment, so that we can't take in recycling. But if it is a plastic clamshell, usually a clear plastic one for like a salad, for example, as long as it's a 1, 2, or 5 and you clean it out, that's okay to recycle. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay if like you're not into like checking the numbers either. will get, you know, it will get screened out eventually if it's not a recyclable type of plastic. It's just that like, we just want people to understand, like, only 1s, 2s, and 5s are being recycled. So we can continue to put your plastic containers in of 6s and 7s. They just are gonna be landfilled. So just to be upfront, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
providing
thanks.
this.
Thanks for you guys out there. We'll be sending a follow-up email early next week with the recording, resource list, and a feedback form, because we would love to know. Don't be too hard on us because our survey or our trivia took more, but you guys did an awesome job. So thanks for joining us in person as well, and have a good night.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Have a good night, guys.